Welcome back to my channel. It is now time for the NFL playoffs. It is the time that we have all been waiting for, and in today's video I'll be giving you a completely unbiased breakdown of the Eagles versus Packers matchup. This is the 2-seed Eagles versus the 7-seed Green Bay Packers. Of course, in case you could not tell, I am an Eagles fan, but I will try my best. So first things first, what happened the last time they played? Because they actually did play this year, even though it was the first game of the year in Brazil, and honestly it barely even feels like this season. But what happened, and the Eagles won this game, and it was a very good game. So essentially the Packers were really good in the first half, or at least the first quarter, and then the Eagles stormed back, won the game. Mainly, I would say, was a very impressive defense performance in the red zone, because there were several opportunities for the Packers to go up big, and the Eagles defense prevented them from doing that. Anyways, after that happened, the Eagles and the Packers both went on to have very, very good seasons. The Eagles ended up 14-3, and the Packers ended up 11-6, but 5 of those losses were either to the Eagles, the Vikings, or the Lions, and then the last one was just to the Bears, which I don't know how much the Packers actually cared this week. This game will be taking place on Sunday. It is the evening game, so we'll be on at about 4:30. My preferred time slot. I was thankful it's not a Monday night game, because that would have been terrible. And what does Vegas think? Well, it started off as 3.5-point Eagles favorites. It got bet up, and the Eagles are now either 4.5 or 5.5-point favorites. If you're enjoying my video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel for more content. But back to the video. So up next, how are the injuries looking? And the Packers did just have a very big injury. That is Christian Watson, who has a torn ACL. He's out for the year. I would say the other one, there are a few. Jair Alexander out for the game as well. And then Jordan Love hurt his funny bone, but he will play. I have heard some reports say that it might be a little difficult for him to throw the ball, which does matter because he is their quarterback, and that is what he does, but he will play for sure. On the Eagles side of the ball, there are less injuries. The biggest one, though, is Jalen Hurts. He is still in concussion protocol as of Monday night, and while every real indication is that he's going to play, he has missed a lot of practice time, so he could be a little rusty. The other player injured is Nakobe Dean. He's one of the Eagles linebackers, and he is very likely to play, but he is injured. So now a team comparison. What are the Eagles good at? So first off, the Eagles have arguably, and maybe not arguably, the best defense in the NFL. They're the number 1 ranked passing defense in the NFL, only allowing 174 yards per game, and the number 1 yards per game as a whole, only allowing 278 yards per game. The Packers, on the other hand, have a very good defense as well. It's top 5 in DVOA. They are the 5th in yards per game at 314, but that is about 40 more yards per game than the Eagles let up. The Packers' passing defense is probably the weak part of their defense. They've allowed 215 yards per game, 13th in the NFL. However, when it comes to the rushing defense, they're about the same. The Packers are the 7th ranked, 99 rushing yards per game allowed. The Eagles are the 10th at 104 rushing yards allowed. So both of these are very good defenses, of course. But I think most people would give the Eagles an edge, centered around the excellent defensive back play for the Eagles and the linebacker play. Really, honestly, this Eagles defense is a complete team. And now I just have to compare the Eagles defense to the Packers offense, because of course the defenses aren't going to be playing each other. So how are they actually going to match up? Well, the Packers offense is a good offense. It's also top 5 DVOA. They are 8th in total points. They are 5th in yards per game. The Packers like to start the game running the ball with Josh Jacobs. They have an excellent run game, 5th in the NFL for total yards per game, rushing yards per game. That will be a huge matchup in this game, and honestly could decide how this game turns out. The Packers rushing game with Josh Jacobs versus the Eagles' rushing defense. There have been moments this year where the Eagles' rushing defense has struggled. For the passing game for the Packers, I think they will rely a lot on play action pass, try to get some big plays. Not having Christian Watson will hurt them a lot, and the Eagles actually do have the corners that can match up with the Packers wide receivers. That's kind of one of the Packers things that they're good at, is they have so many, I would say, number 2 level wide receivers that teams can't match up against them. They don't really have a number 1 though. However, the Eagles, one of the only teams in the NFL, have about 4 good corners, so they can actually cover everybody theoretically. Of course, it is the NFL. Any given Sunday, anything can happen, but on paper, the Eagles can actually cover all of these wide receivers. You have to mention the Packers have a good tight end as well, but the Eagles should be able to deal with that as well. As far as Packers scoring, once again, honestly, it all comes down to Josh Jacobs, in my opinion. Unless Love does just have like a unworldly game, which he did pretty much have last time in the playoffs when they were the 7 seed going against the 2 seed Cowboys, and they blew them out. So you do have to be wary of that happening again. They do have a good head coach. They have lots of talent on offense, and they could easily score a lot of points. However, that I don't want to discredit this Eagles defense, who has been the best defense in the NFL this year. On the other side of the ball, the Eagles offense versus the Packers defense. Of course, the Eagles offense is centered around Saquon Barkley. He did just get a week of rest off, along with all the other starters, so they are rested up, ready to go. But this offense goes where Saquon Barkley takes them. There's a reason why he was able to get 2,000 rushing yards this year. In my opinion, the Eagles' rushing offense, especially if Jalen Hurts is running the ball, is the best rushing offense in the NFL, and they have big play wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert is healthy as well, and he's been out for most of the year. This has maybe the most talent of an offense in the NFL, not to mention their offensive line, where they have 3 Pro Bowlers out of 5, and everyone is complaining that they don't have 4 out of 5. Very talented offense. Where is the weakness in this offense? And that is the passing game. They're actually 30th in the NFL in passing yards per game. That's because they don't pass the ball that much. Not because it's the worst in the NFL, but because they just don't do it. But there are times where the Eagles offense will start slow and the passing game can't really pick them up. It's been a clunky passing game so far this year. However, at any moment, they could score. And then matching up against the Packers defense. So the Packers, as I mentioned earlier, have a very good rushing defense and a pretty good passing defense. I don't think they have anybody that can cover A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, especially without Alexander. So we need Jalen Hurts. The Eagles need Jalen Hurts to really step up and play like a top 10 quarterback like he has in his previous playoff performances. But what do I think the Eagles will do? I think they're going to do what they always do and start off and continue throughout the game running the ball with Saquon Barkley. So I think this game will come down to, on both sides of the ball, who can run the ball better. I personally think the Eagles will be able to. I think Saquon Barkley is better. I think the Eagles' offensive line is better than the Packers' offensive line. And I think their rushing defense is about the same. But I would not be shocked if it goes the other way. The final thing I have to mention is special teams, because it has been important for the Eagles so far this year. The Packers' kicking game has been pretty good this year. However, the Eagles have struggled. Against Washington, against Washington a few weeks ago, Brandon Mann, the Eagles punter who does kickoffs, was not getting it done. He was kicking it off to about the 10. They were returning it to the 35 every time, and that just can't happen. Jake Elliott needs to take over, which he has at times, and then Jake Elliott has been a bit of a liability this year, missing a ton of kicks, and not just 50-plus yard kicks, but this past week he missed a 39-yard kick as well, so that is concerning if it is a close game. So that's kind of all I have. So now for my conclusion and my prediction, I think the Eagles are going to win this game. I think they're going to win it 31-24, and I think the Packers will have a bit of a comeback at the end. I think the Eagles are the most complete team in the NFL, and I think they'll be able to run the ball with some moderate difficulty, but eventually they'll break through, and they'll be able to shut down Love and the Packers for a majority of the game. But I would not be shocked. I would not even be surprised if the Packers pull this one off. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later.